Shifting into eternal life is what Mother Gaia is doing now, and it is what we are doing individually and collectively on this earth right now. We are learning how to shift into a new timeline of a new reality. And that timeline consists of whatever version of reality that we choose to place within it. But since I am working with Yeshua ben Joseph and Elika to open the Ascension portals, I am now the one who gives permission to who will use those Ascension portals. And it is my choice that the only consciousness that comes through these Ascension portals that have been created by my soul, my Mary Magdalene soul, is to permit only the perfect consciousness created in the image and likeness of God, which was then created by the Elohim angels, which was recreated by the Oraphim race line to penetrate into the consciousness of Mother Earth. So the only consciousness in my version of reality, and the only version of reality that I am allowing into the consciousness of Earth, is that perfect timeline, that perfect version where there were no wars, where there were no problems, where there was no creation of disease, there was no dis-ease of consciousness in that timeline. How did this reality appear in the journey of Mary Magdalene bringing in this consciousness to Earth by creating this first portal? We removed all possibilities of any continuation of race lines who were unlike the perfect Elohim angelic human creation from coming in when Joe was possessed by these 3 demonic race lines. Once those race lines were returned to source consciousness, they can only return as the original replication of that Father, Mother, God, love creation that they were created to be. So now that they have been returned and transmuted and remade, they can only return now through the 12 stargates as the original perfect one. When Joe was living in his cosmic orb body around his body, he was living within his body because my soul was holding him on earth within his body, but his consciousness, his reality, what he was seeing was actually outside in his cosmic body, that place he went when he went all the way back to source, but then I reconnected my soul into my higher self soul of Mary Magdalene to bring back into him. Now that we have performed this on earth, anyone on earth can use the Mary Magdalene higher self consciousness to also travel up this timeline through their own higher self. You travel up into your higher self, which is 3 feet above your crown chakra. You take your soul from your heart. Your soul lives on right below your heart on the right side. There is your soul. There is your little soul that weighs about 3 ounces. So you see yourself as a mini-me riding within your soul, and you ride in that soul go up through your crown chakra and clear up through your second dimensional self, your third dimensional self, your fourth dimensional self, and your fifth dimensional, which is actually your fifth sphere, your cosmic consciousness self. So now you're up there in your higher self. And so when you're up there, where Joe was when he rose up into his higher self, and he was in that blue sphere around his body, he was actually looking back at his body as the observer of his body. He was seeing his body through the eyes of God, through the eyes of his spiritual soul, his higher self. He was seeing himself as the perfect self. He did not see himself as being in pain. He didn't see himself looking like Frankenstein. That reality was only being seen through the vision of the third dimensional consciousness, which was disconnected from the higher self-consciousness. When you leave your consciousness of your third dimensional body and travel up your elevator, up through above the crown chakra, up to the second sphere, third sphere, fourth sphere, up to the fifth sphere, 36 inches above your head, and you travel up there and you sit inside of your higher self, your spiritual soul, your higher self soul, your cosmic soul, then you too can become the observer of your body, looking through the eyes of God back down at your body. And what do you think Joe's eyes were seeing when he was out in his cosmic body? Was he seeing that his leg had been ripped off, or his bones were shattered in his hips, or his head was cut open? He wasn't seeing any of those things. He was just seeing himself as his perfect self that looked like the image and likeness of God, which is who he truly was. These distortions that we see down here in the third dimension are only illusions. We create these ideas. We create these holograms. We create them by believing that what we see is what we create. We don't have to live in that creation. We can travel up through our souls, just like Joe did. Travel up into your higher self and leave your body completely. And then recreate your body by reattaching your higher self back into your body. So you're going back into your body. Remember, we reconnected Joe back into his body. First, he left his body 100%. He went up into his higher self. And then I connected my soul back to him, so he was the complete soul of Mary Magdalene again. And then when that soul body, when that cosmic body, which is him, which is that blue sphere that I could see around his body, that became him. So everything that happened in the hospital those 3 weeks, Joe didn't feel anything. Joe did not have any painkillers the whole time he was in the hospital. He did not report one speck of pain. His body was broken into thousands of pieces. The doctors were sewing him back together. He didn't feel anything. The doctors kept saying, "Do you feel any pain?" Joe said, "No." "Oh, does this hurt?" "No." "Okay, we're going to operate him. Does that hurt?" "No." He didn't feel anything because he was living in a higher consciousness, looking down at himself, seeing himself as already perfect. This is where we go to heal ourselves. Everyone must rise out of their body up into their higher self-consciousness, up into their cosmic consciousness, and learn to look down from those eyes, become the observer from the spiritual self, looking at the physical body through the eyes of God. You must go through that atomic mirror, that veil that separates the ability to see reality. Go through that mirror, go through the veil, the atomic mirror, move past the Hertzian frequency reality into the infrared frequency, which allows everything to turn around and shift. It allows your eyes to turn around and shift and look back at you from the other side. It allows you to get out of sight of the box. We have created distorted realities within this box that does not allow us to see our true self. When we get out of the box, go clear up into our higher self and look back down at the body, look at ourselves through the spiritual eyes, and then you're holding yourself within the light of the sun, within the light of the cosmic sun creation. Within that light, you're only seeing the light of creation. That light is that plasma that the sun is made of, the pre-plasma, the stardust, the pre-light hydrolase vapor of creation. There is only light and sound. There are only spheres of light in the cosmic reality. So when you're looking at yourself from the cosmic, you're seeing yourself as a sun. You're seeing yourself as light. And you're able to fill the body with light because it is light. The body really is created of this same substance that Joe was living in when he was looking back at the body from the cosmic, through cosmic vision. He was only seeing his light body. And then he demonstrated that to me when he woke up and he was looking at me. When he looked at me, he said he could only see me as light. He saw me as the illuminated one. He saw my skin sparkling. He saw an aura around my body. He saw my eyes sparkling. And he could see that reality perfectly because he was still looking to the eyes of his higher self. He was looking, he was removing himself from the darkness, from the Hertzian level reality of the senses that only see things that can be seen through this low frequency level of what the senses report to us, what the eyes think they see and the ears think they hear. But there is so much more to see and hear. Most of reality is invisible. Most of reality is in imagination. Most of reality is light and sound. There's only a teeny little speck of reality that is made of this density. And we take this teeny little bit of density and we think that density is everything. But when we fill it through the same light that the entire cosmos is made of, then we realize that's just one little teeny speck of, little teeny grain of sand within this vast amount of light that transforms the body completely into light energy. And that's what we can learn from this story of what happened to the soul of Mary Magdalene while she was opening this portal. Her soul came back together into oneness to create this power, this frequency of light, bringing the entire source frequency back into Joe's body, which was then shared by both of our bodies because we were one soul. But this frequency of light that was brought back and held Joe in his body while he was in the hospital is something we can all learn to do. It is something many have done before this time. Learning to see the body from the source reality, from the observer, from the host, from the other side of the veil, from the spiritual higher self looking down at the self, from the soul, the highest level of the soul, looking at the body from what the soul sees. And the soul sees the body as all it has ever been. It has been millions of lifetimes, billions of lifetimes, clear back to when it was an orb of light in the cosmos. And so the soul knows itself as light. It knows itself as all of the intelligence that it has gained in the billions of years of creations. It knows itself as the truth of what God God's reality really is. It knows itself as the intelligence of all that is known. It sees itself as the perfect template of the God template of creation, which is about the size of the tip of your little finger thumbnail, or the nail on your little finger, teensy little little point, that teeny little speck about the size of a grain of sand is what the entire template of the God template that everything is created from. The entire allness, the everything of God can fit inside a grain of sand. So size doesn't mean anything. There is no time or space. There is no size. There isn't this tiny little speck of sand that doesn't contain the light, because the light of God is in that speck of sand. It is everywhere. So when we turn around, when we turn our eyes around, go through the veil, go up through the higher self, up into 36 inches above the body, and then look down from the other side and see everything from light, from the perfect creation, and then there is no pain in the body. Then the healing starts happening very rapidly. Then the head that is cut in half comes back together, and there wasn't even a scar left on Joe's forehead after he healed from his head being cracked in half. There wasn't even a sign or a scar of it. There was no sign of any of these things happening, because he was looking at himself through the eyes of his higher self, through the eyes of his soul, from Mary Magdalene's soul, seeing himself as the perfect reality. And so when you see yourself as this perfect reality, you become that perfect reality, and the pain isn't there. The scars are not there. The healing happens very rapidly, because what you are seeing yourself in as light is also within the body. The body isn't separate from the spiritual body on the other side. It isn't separate from the universal Christic body or the cosmic body. It is all one. It is all inside of it. It contains everything that God is. It contains all of the lights of all of the stars. It contains all of the stardust. It contains the pre-stardust, the pre-light, the Christ crystalline, the crystalline liquid light energy. It contains all of that. The body is the temple of God. The neural nets of the body connect to the higher self, so that reality can project itself into the body, can project itself into all of the cells of the body. That is why Joe saw my body glowing and saw the light of my cells and the light of my skin glowing, because that was the reality. But he could only see that reality because he was living in the mind of God. We can all learn to live in the mind of God, live up in our higher self, and then connect our neural nets into our body, so we are seeing the body that our higher self sees. That is the ultimate teaching of eternal life. That is how we transform our bodies into bodies who begin to live at least 120 years at this time, and then 220 years by next generation, and 500 to 1,000 years in 3 generations from now. And then we will start learning that we can come and go. Our soul is free to leave and come back, just like Joe did. Joe experienced this orbing into eternal life. He experienced becoming an orb, disappearing, removing himself from his body 100%, reattaching to his higher self, and then returning to the body. This is the same thing that Lazarus did. This is the idea of resurrection. This is the idea of returning to oneness with your spiritual self, and then becoming that spiritual self because you see yourself as the reflection of that self. We are becoming the reflection of our spiritual body. We are moving through this veil that has separated us from being able to see who we really are. We're supposed to be able to look through this mirror, and what we see reflected back to us is our spiritual body on the other side, looking back at us and seeing the version of reality that we create in every moment, every breath, every version of reality that we choose to live in. We create, we breathe it, we project it in front of us, so it will project as film develops in front of us. We're just developing the negative on the film. This negative of these pictures have been within us, waiting for us to shine the light on them so they can develop and become the realities around us. This is the time that we're living in now. This is the time we are shifting into. This is what Mother Gaia is shifting into. This is what we shift into when we connect our DNA back into those crystalline grids that I have been activating by bringing 5,800 times more frequencies per breath into them than any other being on earth who is doing a lot of grid work. Each time I do this activation, I activate that amount of frequencies into the Christ grids, and then Elika works as an amplifier and a generator to generate those frequencies in an even higher energy, and then amplifies it through the grid so they stream through all of the grids on earth, projecting my 5,800 times of Mary Magdalene frequencies into anyone who connects into those grids of earth. So when the people connect into these Mary Magdalene Elohim grids on earth, which carry the entire Elohim consciousness through these grids, because Mary Magdalene is connected to everyone in the Elohim family. I was the creator of the Elohim family. I am the mother of the Elohim family. We created this race line as the reflection of the Melchizedek race line of the God world. This was to be the perfect creation of the mind of God. These are the children of God. This is the Christic race line made by that 12-coded template of the perfect being. This energy, this self, this creation that I'm streaming through these grid lines will activate into the DNA of those people on earth who attach their consciousness to these Elohim grids within the earth. And the music that I create and sell at crystalmagicorchestra.com is created by these Mary Magdalene frequencies, because I am Mary Magdalene. So the same breath of creation that I'm breathing into the crystalline grids, you can have this full activation of this co-creation energy flowing directly into your ears by listening to this music that I sell on my website. You can listen to the Mary Magdalene Power of Manifestation frequencies, which is Mary Magdalene's frequencies that are used to create the Ascension portals, which are activating the 12 Stargate portals, bringing the entire set of Elohim frequencies back to Earth. You can bring in the DNA reprogramming into you by following the instructions on that recording. You can use the violet flame frequencies that I brought in when I opened the portal in Monterey. The entire Ascension kit was the codes of activations of firing my crown chakra, my base coat, my base chakra, my crown chakra, my heart chakra simultaneously into the grids to open these portals. These were the codes and the God languages that I used. And there's recordings of me working together with the dolphins to open these grids in the the magical mermaid journeys, all of these frequencies, everything that I have done to activate the Christ consciousness on earth, to open the 12 ascension portals, to activate this divine reality that allows your frequencies to shift so high that you are actually living in that orb around your body where Joe was living when he could feel no pain in the hospital, which caused him to heal so quickly. The Mary Magdalene higher self frequencies that we connected to create these frequencies within us that allow us to open these portals and activate these Christic grid lines at this time are all recorded on these sets of frequency music that I call holographic frequency, future frequency music. It's called future frequency because this is the version of reality, the new timeline, the new reality that the Mother Gaia consciousness is shifting into, and we can shift into it with her.